You know that kind of creepy feeling you get when an ad pops up for something you were just thinking about? It's like these systems know us, maybe even better than we know ourselves. And that's incredibly powerful, but it also raises this huge question, and that's what we're going to dig into today. Can we really build ethical AI? Or are we just building our own flawed world right back into the machine?
So, to get our heads around this, let's start with something most of us can relate to: applying for a job. Forever, this was a human process. But now, more and more, the first person who sees your resume isn't a person at all. It's an AI.
And you can totally see the appeal here, right? I mean, on paper, it sounds perfect. An AI recruiter can rip through thousands of resumes in minutes, saving a ton of time and money. It can match skills to jobs with pinpoint accuracy. And here's the big one. It promises to get rid of all that messy, unconscious human bias. A machine, after all, can't be prejudiced, can it? It's this utopian vision of a perfectly fair hiring process.
And then reality hits. This is exactly what happened when Amazon tried to build that perfect system. They trained their AI on 10 years of their own hiring data, and it didn't eliminate bias. It learned it. It automated it. Because the past data was so dominated by male applicants, the machine literally taught itself that men were better candidates. It's such a stark example of how good intentions can just completely backfire. And that whole Amazon thing wasn't just some random glitch in the system. No, it points to a really fundamental problem, something at the very heart of how we're building these AIs. So let's break down why this keeps happening.
The term we really need to understand is this one: algorithmic bias. And the key words here are systematic and replicable. This isn't about the machine having a bad day or making a random mistake. It means the system is consistently, predictably producing unfair outcomes, because that's what it was trained to do. It is, quite literally, bias written in code.
So where's this bias coming from? Well, it really boils down to two main culprits. First, and this is the big one, it's the data itself. AI learns from the world as it is, not as we wish it was. So if our history is full of prejudice, well, the AI learns that prejudice. It's the classic bias in, bias out problem. But it also comes from the designers. The choices an engineer makes, what data to use, what features to tell the AI are important, those choices can accidentally encode their own blind spots right into the algorithm.
And this stuff isn't theoretical. It has real, tangible consequences. We already saw the gender bias with Amazon. A few years ago, Microsoft's chatbot, Tay, started spewing racist garbage within hours of being online because that's what it learned from Twitter. We've seen major facial recognition systems that are way less accurate for people with darker skin, simply because they weren't trained on enough diverse images. It can even misjudge your personality by comparing your tone to some narrow, culturally specific idea of normal. This just goes to show, bias isn't a bug. It's a feature it learned from us.
Now, you'd think if the problem was purely technical, the brilliant people building these things would have solved it by now. But this goes so much deeper than the code. The real, stubborn challenge here is in the messy intersection of power, profit, and policy.
So you might be thinking, okay, if we know where the bias comes from, why can't we just clean the data and fix the algorithm? It's a totally logical question. But the answer to that question reveals a much bigger, much more uncomfortable truth about who is building this technology and why. Here's the fundamental problem. The goals of the giant corporations and governments developing AI often run directly against the public good. Their main goal is to maximize profit or increase efficiency, not necessarily to ensure fairness. So think about it. When the choice is between an algorithm that's 10% more profitable and one that's 10% more fair, which one do you honestly think gets chosen in most boardrooms? This conflict is at the absolute heart of the AI ethics debate. And when we look to governments to step in and help, what we find is, well, it's a mess. It's this completely fragmented patchwork. The EU is trying to write some really strict regulations. The US is mostly relying on court cases to figure things out. Other places are just hoping companies will follow voluntary codes of ethics. The result is, there's no global standard, which just creates loopholes and leaves people vulnerable.
And the end result of all this is a really chilling thing some researchers call black box injustice. Just think about it for a second. An algorithm denies you a loan, rejects your job application, maybe even influences a prison sentence. But you can't see how it made the decision, you can't get anyone to explain it, and there's no clear way to challenge it. It's this profound new kind of powerlessness for the digital age.
So yeah, it's a complicated picture. The tech is biased, the economics are all pointing in the wrong direction, and the laws are desperately trying to catch up. Which brings us to the big question. Where on earth do we go from here? Is there a path forward?
And this, right here, is the most important idea I want you to take away from this whole thing. The quest for ethical AI isn't about finding some clever line of code. It's a deeply human problem. It forces us to look in the mirror and confront our own values, our own biases, and the power structures we live in. The machine is just reflecting us back at ourselves, and fixing that reflection means we have to fix ourselves first. So that means there's no simple fix. The solution has to be this multi-front approach. On the technical side, yes, absolutely, we have to build better datasets and demand transparency. But that's not nearly enough. Inside companies, we need real governance, ethics boards that actually have some teeth. And maybe most importantly, we need strong external oversight, real public regulation, and independent audits. None of these things will work on their own.
It reminds me of a modern twist on an old philosophical idea. Immanuel Kant once said, "Out of the crooked timber of humanity, no straight thing was ever made." Well, the same is true for our data. All of it is bent. It reflects our messy, imperfect, crooked world, and just admitting that, recognizing that inherent flaw, is the very first step toward building something better.
So I'll leave you with this. The next time you interact with an AI, whether it's a chatbot, a streaming recommendation, whatever, just pause for a second and ask yourself two things. Whose values are embedded in this code? Who benefits from this thing working in exactly this way? And then ask, are those values my own? Because at the end of the day, the fight for ethical AI is really a fight for a future that reflects the best of who we are, not the worst of our hidden biases.